Well, this is actually kind of cute. It's kind of... It's not what I expected, actually. It's... Oh no. Oh no. Don't do it. No. No. Fuck! Why do they always do this? Why can't they just start a game normally? Why do you have to run into a woman of tomato? Hello everybody, it's Devon here, and I am going to be doing a game review of a genre I really don't like. I've never really been a fan of dating sims or interactive novels or visual novels or anything like that. I just don't like them, and I'm going to be talking more about that. But first off, if you have any disagreements or you want to discredit all my opinions or whatever, please just finish the video and then you can go ham on that comment section. But so the reason why I'm doing this is, Kyle has always kind of liked dating sims and visual novels, and he kind of kept coming to me with stories, and I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna play one of these games, and I'm gonna hate it, and it's gonna be great, but it'll give me, a reason to actually make a video about it. It'll give me, the backing to be like, all right, I played one, they suck. And for $5 to shit on a game, that's too good to pass up. So I'm going to start off with talking about everything I hated about the game, and we can start with that opening, which obviously I think that speaks for itself. The opening was stereotypical as fuck, and that bothered me a lot. The other thing is the characters themselves are very stereotypical. They almost had no variation. The main character, the main love attraction is basically she's just a paladin and she's just good for the sake of being good. She doesn't really have any like difference besides that, except for the maybe every so often changing that, but it kind of still fits in that stereotype of like good anime girl. It just kind of bothered me. The other characters stick to their stereotypes pretty well too. You got the edgelord, you got the quiet character that has secret emotions that nobody knows about. It was all very stereotypical, and when I saw a character and saw what they were like, I could basically tell, all right, this is gonna happen to them, and then you'd slowly have to see that throughout the story. So it was a very like, all right, I know where this character is going. The decisions also really bothered me because there was two problems with them. First, it was obvious to tell which ones were the right one and which ones were the obvious, like, all right, don't choose this or you're gonna get like yelled at. I mean, when your decisions are like, oh hey, do I look good? And the decisions are like, oh yeah, you look great, or you look fucking awful, or I don't really care, I just want to leave. Like, it's kind of obvious which one you should choose, and I don't know, it kind of defeats the purpose. Going back to story a little bit, there's also like little tidbits that it's like, oh, the character's like, oh, I don't know why this is happening, and you can obviously tell why it's happening, and it's very obvious. Like, the characters will just miss simple details, even when they're directly said by other characters, and it kind of adds to the childish kind of like part of this. Like, I feel like I'm like watching a cartoon rather than a visual novel, which I feel it does take away slightly from the story. But with that, I'm going to move on to what I thought was good about this game. I'm going to start this off right by saying I was wrong. I actually ended up really enjoying this game, and I think it's mostly because it doesn't follow a lot of the stereotypes that visual novels have. I'm not going to call this a dating sim because honestly there's one character. It's not a dating sim. It's a visual novel. It doesn't do a lot of things that stereotypically happens. Of course, there's always that thing like I talked about at the start. It's kind of gonna be in everyone. Honestly, it's just a joke at this point. But I think what it does really well is the music, which I'm sure you can hear in the background. There's not a ton of tracks, but it's kind of just ambient music, and I think it does it very well because it doesn't distract from the story, but it just adds to it. It's kind of like what I was talking about I think it was the Deltarune video. I talked about how certain music kind of blends rather than actually being its own thing, and that was like the difference between Deltarune and Undertale. But that's a whole nother topic so the music I think was done very well in that sense. It did a lot to blend into the environment rather than being a part of it. There was also ambient noises in certain environments that kind of added to the story, which was interesting. I wasn't expecting that. The art was also really cool. Again, as you can kind of see by the background images, I thought it was well done. There's certain areas that seemed a little less worked on than other areas, but in general, I think the art was well done. Speaking of art, the characters were something I wasn't expecting at all. When I think visual novel, I think flat, just images that do their thing. But in Crystalline has this kind of weird thing where it's the characters are like almost 3D models, but they're still like 2D. But they move around as you can. I'll show a video of it. They kind of move around and they move their mouth and they talk. Their body kind of move. It's very odd, but it's also kind of interesting at the same way. Which again, we could go back to the idea that I think the main reason that was made because of jiggle physics, but I'll go into that later. So the story. I'll be honest, I haven't finished the game yet because Jesus Christ, it's fucking long, which is good and bad. It's good because I actually wasn't expecting this game to be very long at all. Most visual novels I think about are they're like $10 and then they last like maybe a few hours, like one or two. They get their story done. But this one seems to actually like extend quite a long time, which is a little bad, I'll be honest, because there is a lot of filler. But at the same time, most of that filler is enjoyable, I would have to say. There are a few, and I'm not going to go into huge spoilers, or I'm going to even try to avoid minor spoilers besides, obviously the main scene joke, because I couldn't help myself. But there's a few decisions where, regardless of what, it kind of forces you to make the bad decision, and that kind of bothers me. Also, the decisions themselves, they're often very easy to discern of which one is the wrong decision and which one is the obvious choice that you should be picking, which in my opinion, it kind of defeats the purpose of having the choices in general. But I think there's also a small bit of jokiness to it, because when I was replaying the game replaying the start to actually get some of these scenes, I chose a few of the other decisions just to see what would happen. And some of them are pretty funny, but as far as characters go, so I kind of talked about their art. The characters themselves, I liked, but I didn't like how they were very stereotyped. It often is like, this character's good because they're good. And then this character's the edgy type. Oh, this character's the quiet but secretly, has more emotions or whatever. It's very like, the characters are set in stone. You basically, after you see them for like 5 seconds, you'd be like, all right, I know exactly what's gonna happen to this character and what trials they're gonna go through, what kind of changes. It kind of bothered me that way. But that was like the biggest hit to the game. That being said, I don't think it really ruins the game. I think it is something that's slightly distracting when you first notice it, but as long as you kind of get into the feel of the game, it's not something that takes away from the game, I guess. One thing that was really amazing was the lack of constant sexual tension. Because God forbid, in every fucking dating game and visual novel, there's gotta be 10 goddamn scenes throughout it that are just constantly happening, where it's like, oh, this person trips, and oh, it's a boob grab, and oh, this person, gives somebody a hug, and the character's like, oh, I can feel her tits, I better not get too nervous. It's just stupid. I'm sorry. It's part of the reason why I hated visual novels and dating games. But this one doesn't do a lot of that. Honestly, there's probably like 2 or 3 scenes that I can remember that actually go into that kind of area. So wrapping up, so I basically, it's a good game. I would actually recommend it, especially if you just want something to play. If you got like a few days that you just want to play something and relax and not have to think and do anything and just enjoy a nice little story. I think if you haven't learned by now, I'm the type of person that initially generally what I first say isn't what I actually mean, because usually if you're like, hey, what's your opinion on this, I'm like, here's my opinion. It's super over exaggerated because I just don't want to deal with actually you know, explaining shit. But when I get down to like brass tacks and everything, I actually go into detail. But yeah, I think I learned that, you know, maybe dating sims aren't that all bad.
Yo,
And
Mr.
what the,
White!
is that Jesse? Jesse Pigman? Hold on.
Jesse,
What the?
how many times
What?
do I have to tell you to
Breaking Bad?
pull me
Why the
eyes up?
fuck?